They were warrior monks, sworn to God, but feared on the battlefield. Their name is whispered in legends, a symbol of power, mystery, and a dramatic, brutal downfall. The Knights Templar. They rose from a small band of 9 knights to become one of the most powerful and wealthy organizations of the Middle Ages. But who were they really? Were they holy warriors, selfless defenders of the faith? Or was there a darker, more secretive side to their order? Today, we're going to uncover the true story of the Knights Templar, from their pious beginnings to their fiery end. It all started around the year 1119 in the chaotic aftermath of the First Crusade. Jerusalem had been reclaimed by Christian forces, and pilgrims from all over Europe were flocking to the Holy Land. But the journey was incredibly dangerous. Bandits and hostile forces lurked on the roads, preying on unarmed travelers. In response, a French knight named Hugues de Payens, along with 8 of his relatives and companions, approached King Baldwin Set of Jerusalem with a radical idea. They proposed forming a new monastic order dedicated to protecting these pilgrims. This wasn't just another group of monks. They would take the traditional vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but with a crucial twist. They would also be knights, permitted to wield the sword in defense of the innocent. They were to be both monks and soldiers, a concept that was revolutionary at the time. King Baldwin granted them a headquarters on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, in a wing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which was believed to be the site of the ancient Temple of Solomon. From this location, they took their name, the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, or, as we know them, the Knights Templar. For nearly a decade, the order remained small and relatively unknown. But in 1129, they received the official endorsement of the Catholic Church at the Council of Troy. This was a game-changer. With the backing of the Pope and a formal set of rules drafted by the influential Abbot Bernard of Clairvaux, the Templars were catapulted onto the world stage. Bernard himself wrote a treatise called In Praise of the New Knighthood, arguing that a Templar could kill without sin, as he was not committing homicide, but malicide, the killing of evil. This ideological backing was incredibly powerful. Their famous symbol, a red cross on a white mantle, the white representing the purity of their monastic life, and the red representing their willingness to shed blood for their faith, soon became an icon of Christendom. As the Crusades continued to rage across the Holy Land, the Templars transformed from a small protective force into an elite military machine. They were the special forces of the medieval world. On the battlefield, they were legendary for their discipline, courage, and unwavering resolve. They were often the first to charge and the last to retreat. Templar knights were trained to fight as a cohesive unit, a stark contrast to the often chaotic charges of secular knights who fought for personal glory. Their famous battle standard, the black and white bosant, would signal their presence, striking fear into their enemies and inspiring courage in their allies. They played a crucial role in major battles of the Crusades. At the Battle of Montgisard in 1177, a small Crusader force, including just 80 Templars, managed to defeat a much larger army led by the great Muslim leader Saladin. Even in devastating defeats, like the Battle of Hattin in 1187, which led to the loss of Jerusalem, the Templars fought with ferocious bravery to the very end. Muslim chroniclers, who were their sworn enemies, often wrote with a grudging respect for their martial prowess and their willingness to die for their cause. But their role wasn't limited to open warfare. They became masters of logistics and defense. They built and garrisoned a network of massive castles across the Crusader states, like the formidable Crac des Chevaliers, which served as vital strategic strongholds. They guarded borders, escorted dignitaries, and formed the military backbone of the Christian presence in the East. While individual knights were sworn to poverty, the Templar order itself was under no such restriction. In fact, it grew to become astonishingly wealthy. Pious Christians across Europe, from powerful kings and queens to humble villagers, donated land, castles, businesses, and vast sums of money to the order, hoping to gain spiritual favor. This influx of wealth was managed with incredible efficiency. The Templars created what many historians consider to be the world's first multinational corporation and an early form of international banking. Here's how it worked. A pilgrim heading to the Holy Land could deposit their money at a Templar preceptory or commandery in London or Paris. They would receive a letter of credit, a coded document detailing the amount. Upon arriving safely in Jerusalem or Acre, they could present this letter to the Templars there and withdraw their funds. This system eliminated the immense risk of carrying large sums of cash on dangerous journeys. The Templars also managed estates, farmed lands, and provided loans to monarchs and nobles, effectively acting as the treasury for much of Christendom. For a nobleman's second or third son with no inheritance to look forward to, joining the Templars offered a life of purpose and glory. For rulers, they were a powerful military and financial ally. But as their influence grew, they also became a potential rival. Their power was immense, and they answered to no one but the Pope himself. But the winds of fortune were about to change. By the late 13th century, the tide had turned against the Crusaders. One by one, their strongholds fell. The final blow came in 1291 with the fall of Acre, the last major Crusader city in the Holy Land. With their primary military purpose now gone, the Templars were forced to retreat to their bases in Europe, primarily in Cyprus and France. Their original mission, protecting pilgrims to Jerusalem, was now impossible. Yet, they remained an incredibly wealthy and powerful organization, operating across borders, exempt from local laws and answerable only to Rome. This combination of immense wealth and a fading purpose made them vulnerable. They had powerful enemies, and none was more dangerous than King Philip IV of France. Philip was deeply in debt to the Templars and coveted their vast riches. He also saw their independent power within his own kingdom as a direct threat to his authority. He began a calculated and ruthless campaign to destroy them. He secretly planned a coordinated strike, and on a date that would live in infamy, Friday, October 13, 1307, his orders were carried out. Across France, Templars were simultaneously arrested, their properties seized, and their assets frozen. The charges leveled against them were shocking and designed to create maximum public outrage. Heresy, denying Christ, spitting on the cross, idol worship, specifically of a mysterious head called Baphomet, and engaging in obscene secret rituals. Under brutal torture administered by royal inquisitors, many knights, including the Grand Master Jacques de Molay, confessed to these sensational crimes. However, when brought before papal representatives and away from the immediate threat of torture, many of them recanted their confessions, proclaiming their innocence and the order's purity. They insisted their confessions were lies, forced from them through unbearable pain. The situation put Pope Clement V, a Frenchman heavily influenced by Philip, in an impossible position. He initially tried to defend the order, but the king's pressure was relentless. In 1312, at the Council of Vienne, Clement V officially disbanded the Knights Templar, not because they were found guilty, but on the grounds that the order's reputation had been so tarnished that it could no longer function. It was a political maneuver, not a verdict of guilt. The Templars' vast properties were ordered to be transferred to their rivals, the Knights Hospitaller, though King Philip managed to keep a significant portion for himself. The final, tragic act played out 2 years later, in March 1314. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Order, and Geoffrey de Charnay, another high-ranking Templar, were brought to a scaffold in front of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. They were declared relapsed heretics for recanting their confessions and sentenced to be burned at the stake. As the flames rose around him, de Molay is said to have issued a curse, summoning both King Philip and Pope Clement to appear before God's judgment within a year. Whether a curse or a coincidence, the legend holds a chilling truth. Pope Clement died just 1 month later, and King Philip himself died in a hunting accident before the year was out. The sudden and violent destruction of the Templars left a void that was quickly filled with mystery, speculation, and legend. What happened to their enormous treasure, which was never fully accounted for? Were the charges of secret rituals and idol worship completely fabricated, or was there a kernel of truth to them? Did the Templars guard a secret so profound it could shake the foundations of the Church? Perhaps the Holy Grail or ancient texts revealing a different version of Christianity? Over the centuries, these questions have fueled countless theories. Some believe the surviving Templars went underground, their secrets and traditions passing down through other secret societies like the Freemasons. Others claim they fled to Scotland, using their fleet to escape with their treasure and later aiding Robert the Bruce at the Battle of Bannockburn. The image of the Templar has endured not just as a historical figure, but as an archetype, the keeper of lost secrets, the guardian of sacred relics, the fallen hero. So, who were the Knights Templar? The answer is complex. They were pious men who dedicated their lives to God, but also elite soldiers who shed blood without hesitation. They were an organization sworn to poverty that became a global financial powerhouse. They were heroes of the Crusades who were ultimately branded as heretics and traitors. Perhaps the truth is that they were all of these things at once, a product of a violent, pious, and contradictory age. Their story is a powerful reminder of how quickly power can be built and how brutally it can be torn down. The facts of their history are fascinating, but it is the mystery of their downfall that has cemented their legend, ensuring that the Knights Templar will never truly be forgotten. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this dive into history, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Templars in the comments below. See you next time.